Ready to go again?
What do you want me to do?
Hit me.
You're a 15-year-old girl. Ugh. What the hell?
Oh, God. Oh, take your tampon out, Dave.
They may wear costumes, but it isn't Halloween. They're real-life superheroes.
Me and Hit Girl were training every day. And there were more and more people joining us every night.
Colonel Stars and Stripes, reporting for duty.
And try to have fun. Otherwise, what's the point?
A world full of superheroes, huh? Where do they get a load of me?
And we're live.
Hey.
Howdy. The script, BSE.
Beat Sheet Edition.
Kick-Ass 2.
Yep.
And we're appropriately in our superhero costumes.
Yes.
With inappropriate ethnic superhero names.
Yes,
Yes, Bog Jumper.
I'm here with Chris, the extra virgin olive oiler, the Ocus. I'm here with Chris, the goulash ghoul Durham, and I'm tonight David, the drunken bog jumper Negrin.
These are really not that insensitive.
No, we could have done way worse. But our costumes, I don't think we could do much better.
No.
If you're listening to this on the podcast, you should definitely check out the Google Hangout on our YouTube channel.
Yes, this is the one to start actually watching us.
Yeah, the video version. All right, the script beat sheet edition. We're gonna analyze a script through Blake Snyder's 15-beat structure, right?
Yeah, analyze the movie, not necessarily the script. The
yeah. We on the BSCs we watch the movies and we do the beats from the viewing.
Yeah,
the Blake Snyder beat sheet. If you need an explanation, there's a link on our website.
Read the book, Save the Cat.
Yeah, Save the Cat. It breaks the screenplay structure down into 15 bite-sized, manageable sections called beats, each of which has a specific goal of the overall story. You can download our final beat sheet, the one that the three of us come to together, and follow this podcast along with that Google Doc version of our final beat sheet from the website. If we're looking for reviews. So we got a couple of good reviews, couple of critical reviews on iTunes, but
it's okay. We're screenwriters. We're used to criticism.
Yeah, we can take notes.
Yeah.
Well,
notes.
Never do another podcast again. Go cry home to mommy. We can take notes like that.
Yeah, definitely. But we want email feedback too. We want questions. We want corrections.
Yeah, you can email us at scriptfeed@gmail.com. Chris, what was the other thing that you were hoping we get?
Oh, the well-actuallys.
Some well-actuallys.
Yeah, correct us. Call us out on our bullshit because really we're really full of it.
We're winging it.
Yeah, like right now, well, actually, I couldn't see the top of Olive Oiler's head. There we go. Yeah. Much better.
Oh, yeah. You feel better now, drunken Bob Jumper.
Dude,
I won't feel better till I'm, on the floor of an Irish pub.
Yeah, when you lose those horns, Theokus, I just see Chris Theokus there. When it comes down, I see
the olive
oiler.
EVO oiler.
The extra virgin olive oiler.
The extra evil extra virgin olive oiler.
All right. Let's get going here, guys.
Yeah.
Kick-Ass 2, filmmakers, directed by Jeff Wadlow, screenplay by Jeff Wadlow, based on the graphic novels by Mark Miller and John Romita Jr.,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we think generally? Just first impressions.
Well, what are your levels of experience with the original film and the graphic novels? Theokis?
Well, yeah, definitely the film pulls its punches in some cases where the graphic novel just falls to the wall, as the sequel graphic novel was
No,
called.
but you are a huge fan. You've read all the graphic novels. You've seen the original.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a good time at it.
You're a kick-ass enthusiast.
Kick-ass enthusiast. I am enthusiastic about Kick-Ass. I really looked forward to this, before it actually came out, and I had a good time while I was there. I don't think you can ask for much more. It's a rated R superhero movie with, quote, regular people as superheroes.
Goulash?
Does it stand up to like the Avengers in terms of scale and so on? No, but I don't think it ever was.
No, but we're concerned with story here.
Yeah.
Goulash?
You know what? I'm just gonna say I think this is probably the most fun that I've had at a movie this summer. I'm not gonna say it's the best. I'm not gonna say it's the best movie. It's not. But it's the most fun I've had. I laughed the most. I felt, there's one scene where the guy next to me looks over at me. He says, "Oh my God, did that just really happen?" And I was laughing too hard to answer.
That? What scene was that?
Oh man,
it was a six stick.
The six stick, exactly.
Okay, that was a highlight of the film. I'll agree.
Yeah, I almost shit myself seeing that. But
the six stick was the pinnacle of this film. I, on the other hand, was underwhelmed by this movie in a lot of ways, and it's not just because I'm wearing a monocle in my costume.
it's too lowbrow for you.
I really liked the original Kick-Ass. I thought the original concept, basically the meat of this movie, is you've got young kids doing ultra violence and being ultra obscene with their language, and that was, at the time, it was edgy and it was an original. And now with the sequel, it didn't top that. It didn't deliver on that. It didn't do more obscene and more violent than the original, which is what it needed to do, in my opinion, to clear the bar.
So yeah, I wouldn't say, like, I think the original stands on its own, and I think the original has a little something more to it. But I have to say, I don't think that this is a letdown in the way a lot of sequels are. I really enjoyed it.
It wasn't a total piece of shit.
Wow. Okay, so we got some varying opinions here. I like that.
I'm just saying I was underwhelmed.
Okay.
And we'll start talking about the story, and I'll let you know along the way.
Well, should we talk about, say, the differences between the book and the film? Because
you should bring those up. You should bring those up as we go through this story on the piece.
I was going to say, some of the concerns that you have about the premise of young kids swearing and killing people and so on work a lot better in the comic than it does, I think, in this film. Simply because of...
So then that's the filmmaker's failure.
Well, actually, I wouldn't say that it's the filmmaker's failure. I would say it's just the nature of the fact that Chloe Moretz grew up. And that's something they have to deal with in the movie, in filmmaking, whereas they don't have to deal with that in the comic books. They can just...
She's less of a kid? It's less obscene because she's a little older?
It is, I think, because and this is something that affects not just Hit Girl, but Kick-Ass as well, and all the people around them. In the comics, I mean, it picks up... Kick-Ass 2 picks up maybe a year after Kick-Ass 1.
Yeah.
So the character goes from... so Hit Girl goes from like 10 to 11 instead of maybe 12 to 14 or 15. And there's a huge difference between that. And so, in that sense, I think they compensated as well as fairly well as they could, because what happens to Mindy?
Right, because teenagers, high school teenagers being obscene and violent is not
par for the course.
Is not edgy as a 10 or 12, 11 or 12-year-old. Also, Big Daddy's missing. The part of the edginess is that the father is like encouraging all that. which is completely dark, and
there's no replacement in this.
Yeah.
For him.
No, there's not.
Stars and Stripes does not hack it. I think Jim Carrey was like very underused here, very underused. I think it's to this beat sheet, guys. Do you mind if I get into the beat sheet?
He says a little, yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to take, if the olive oiler, wants to take over.
Go ahead.
You have the evil bona fides to take over from the bog jumper.
And my evil bona fides are my
your
horns.
Yeah. Okay. The opening image is Hit Girl shooting Kick-Ass. What do you think of that scene?
I mean, it's just a repeat from the first movie. I don't necessarily agree that it's like your opening image.
What was the opening image? Did I miss that?
No, I mean, it's literally the first image, but I don't necessarily agree that the very first thing you see is the opening image. That's what I'm saying.
So, okay, I mean, so normally when we talk about the opening image, at least when we've done it on this show, we've tried to concern ourselves with like the very first image or the very first scene that you see in the movie, and in the beat sheet that's generally reflected in the final image, and I think there's a bit of that going on here. I think the stuff after that is the setup, and I think I do think that happens here. The opening image and the final image, there is a thematic reflection.
What's our closing image?
So our closing image is Kick-Ass training himself, right? Is he's suiting up himself. The story is an origin story. It's like Kick-Ass doesn't have a proper origin story in the traditional comic book sense or superhero sense in the first movie.
Right.
The first movie, it's like Big Daddy and Hit Girl are really doing the superheroing.
Right. So
in this movie, Kick-Ass wants in on that business, on the real business of superheroing, and he's trying to get Hit Girl to train him, but then Hit Girl essentially hangs up her cape.
Right, but at the beginning of this, he hasn't gone through the crucible. He's not really a superhero. He's training to be a superhero. He's relying on somebody else to make him a superhero, and he has to go through this process this is all about identity, and he has to go through that process to become Kick-Ass.
Is Kick-Ass the protagonist?
So, again, we get into this dual protagonism thing, but he is ultimately the primary. I would say that there's dual protagonism going on here, but if you have to choose one, it's Kick-Ass. They both arc. There's something going on for both of them, but ultimately this is his origin story.
It's definitely Kick-Ass if you discount the dual protagonist story, and I kind of do in this case, because Mindy goes from being Hit Girl to not being Hit Girl to coming back to being Hit Girl, and I don't think
there's an awful lot of pages when you got two main characters who are supposed to be working together, one main character, one dynamic character affecting each other. They're supposed to be stuck together for most of the movie, and there's too many pages, too much time where Hit Girl and Kick-Ass are separate, and it feels like two different movies.
It definitely does, but it is
not integrated. And then finally in the third act, oh my God, there's like a wonderful integration.
Yes, but
are you arguing?
I don't agree.
Are you arguing, Bog Jumper, that there are two protagonists here?
No, I'm arguing there's two A stories here that are not fused together.
I would agree that there's two A stories. I don't know that I agree that the story suffers for their separation during the second act.
It just doesn't feel like one movie. No, because they separate before the second act.
No, they don't. Well, we can get to the break to two, but I believe I would mark their separation. The entirety of their separation is the second act. Like the first act is them training together, him wanting to become Kick-Ass, him ultimately deciding to join up with these other.
The entire second act.
Well, I think they come back together.
The whole fucking movie.
They come back together during the funeral, which I think is still in the second act.
Right. It's the low point.
So I mean, technically, well, actually,
Dark Knight.
Either way, I mean, in general, it's
all's lost, whatever.
Yeah, but back to the opening image.
Yeah.
My argument isn't necessarily that it's. I don't think every movie the first thing you see is the opening image, and in this case, I think it's a little more of a dynamic one where it shows they're training, but they're also going to school, and so I think it's kind of a mix of the two. It's like if you watch the movie Superbad, the opening image wasn't a static image. It was the two characters physically moving together, Evan and Seth.
Yeah, right. And that because that movie is about their relationship.
But that's what I mean. It's like if you talk about Kick-Ass becoming a superhero, you'd arguably say, well, your opening image is he's not a superhero. He's living a teen life.
Okay, so essentially, wasn't the original Kick-Ass the opening image is Big Daddy shooting Hit Girl?
That happens.
No, that happens later on.
Okay, but that's when he begins to train her, right? So, the opening image of Kick-Ass 2 does work with the theme of the film, which is Hit Girl training Kick-Ass, giving him an origin story, training him to be a true superhero at their level, right?
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah, but then I guess the argument is, does she really train him?
But then the second act is she tries to hang up her cape, and he's got to try to do it on his own, and all right.
I mean, I definitely think the setup is that they're training in order for Kick-Ass to become a real hero. But I think like the image should reflect that he's just not a hero yet, and I think that just encompasses everything that he is.
Right. So, do we have a theme stated? You guys get a theme stated?
I don't remember where it is, but it is. I guess it's when he's the pimp, when she says Kick-Ass is not the mask. Kick-Ass is who you are. Dave Lazuski is the mask.
Yeah, Kick-Ass isn't a costume. It's who you really are. That's even actually stated in the trailer. Which, but yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you guys are convincing me now that this is his real origin story. Yeah.
There's some more clues later on that show, like, what is a stereotypical origin story for a superhero, because this is kind of repeated all the way through, about not necessarily in those exact terms, but like Battle Guy, his friend from school, when he's talking about his origin story with Justice Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's using the Batman origin story. His parents are killed. And throughout, you'll see that Hit Girl has the picture of Big Daddy up in the headquarters. And the motherfucker, well, I guess Chris, before he's the motherfucker, has a picture of his dad, who was killed in the first movie.
Yeah.
And so it's suggested all the way through that for Kick-Ass really isn't a superhero, at least in the I don't want to say cliche, but in the archetypal sense, is because even though his mom is dead, she died from like an aneurysm. She didn't die in a tragedy. I mean, not to say that dying from an aneurysm isn't tragic, but it's not superhero tragic.
So he needs an origin story. Is that
right? I mean, a hero needs to be forged, right? Like, you don't pick up one day and decide I'm going to be a hero. Like, even like, what we would consider real world heroes, like, Marines, right? They have to go through a real ordeal and a trial.
It's not enough to have a superpower. You need a wound. You need a wound that you're trying to heal by saving the world.
I mean, look, a dude who puts on a fucking cape and mask and runs around beating people up isn't a well-adjusted person. Something has happened to him.
No, he's definitely crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument on the other hand, because there are plenty of superheroes who don't necessarily have tragedy, but all the iconic ones that we remember do, like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man.
Now, am I right to remember that Kick-Ass does have a superpower? He had some kind of nerve damage, right?
Yeah, so
where he does not feel pain, so he can like take beatings.
He has like a metal plate in his head. I think he even has some stuff in his arms. Not that it really matters, but an 85% nerve damage, so he can take a beating, which is what his superpower is. It's not that he's
which suits his name.
So, yeah. Probably in the wrong way.
Is
that
all authentic from the graphic novels, Chris?
That is
olive oiler, extra virgin.
Yes, Bog Jumper, it is. Yeah, that one pretty much flies that they kept. There are a couple of things actually that they kept in this, and that they actually pulled from the first graphic novel for this movie. Because in the graphic novel, Dave doesn't have a girlfriend ever. So the girl, I guess it's Brooke, who breaks up with him at the beginning.
Katie.
Katie?
Yeah, Brooke's the one that with Hit Girl.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So when Katie breaks up with him in Kick-Ass 2, she says she's going to go out with this other guy who has a bigger baton than Kick-Ass, and that's actually kind of a callback to the first book, where when he approaches her to say, "Hey, I'm Kick-Ass and I'm not really gay," because he hangs out with her pretending to be gay,
Right.
she's offended by it. She thinks he's a stalker. She has, this boyfriend she's saying beat her up, and
so what that is in or is not in the graphic novel?
It is in the graphic novel, but like I said, in the graphic novel, he's not dating her. She's, she hates him. She thinks
I don't
he's
think the
disgusting.
girlfriend has a very big impact on the story at all. I don't even know that it needed to be there.
Yeah, well,
yeah, they were just getting rid of her, and to be quite
Yeah.
honest, the whole thing was just a callback, I think, for fans of the graphic novel.
Okay, so in the setup, let me outline it. You guys let me know if I'm missing anything. Kick-Ass has inspired a heroes movement in New York City.
Yeah.
He wants Hit Girl to train him, and he wants to be Hit Girl's sidekick, basically.
Yeah.
Well, my impression was it was the other way around.
Yeah, well, that's what he suggests, and she's like, "You kidding me?" I'm like, "What is that great line she has?" She's like, I'm
Robin wishes he was me.
Yeah, Robin wishes me. Yeah.
Right, she's like, "I'm in the major leagues, and you're like in T-ball or something." But she does accept him at some point, and they decide to train together, which is great. She just beats the hell out of him, and this is still first act, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and they bond. They bond a little bit
yeah.
on a personal level that they hadn't really in the first movie.
Right. But it's obvious Hit Girl's more powerful than Kick-Ass, and she's a better fighter, and she has the real crime fighting experience that she learned from Big Daddy.
Yes.
Also in the setup is Red Mist. He's bored. He's around the house, and his
He wants vengeance.
His mom is nagging him, so he accidentally kills her, which is really just foolish ridiculousness, because it wasn't funny, and it wasn't obscene, and it wasn't violent. And this is, again, an area, like I'm going to keep harping on this, where they needed to up the voltage on this stuff.
I agree on this point. Yeah, I saw it coming, of course, and I thought it was going to be hilarious. I thought he was going to go kill her on purpose. It was going to be fucked up. I thought there was going to be something there, and it turns out he trips on a wire or something, right?
Oh yeah, he kicks it until it shorts. It could have been they suggested there was like an Oedipal complex thing going on as well, and they didn't really play that up.
Well, yeah, I mean, with a name like
in the book, that doesn't even happen. In the book, he's going to do a Bruce Wayne and travel the world and learn the ways of martial arts and things like that and come back and kill Kick-Ass. And then at the airport, he realizes that he's rich and he can just buy it. Like he does in the movie. He realizes his superpower is that he's rich.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That is funny.
He's at the airport. He's like, why do I need that? My superpower is I'm rich. I can buy a bunch of guys. It's not done well. It's not executed that well.
Yeah,
I mean, I just kept thinking, first of all, the comedy this is a rated R movie. It's not obscene enough. The comedy should be hard edge. It should be like Judd Apatow kind of films.
I was thinking it should have been more along the lines of The Hangover. Probably even Hangover Part 2.
Yeah.
Hangover Part 2 and 3.
In first act, we get the first action set piece is the pimp getting jumped.
Yes.
Right. This is a training mission that Hit Girl sends Kick-Ass on.
Which is from the book, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the pimp thing is a little funny, but this is a total cliche set piece. Like they did not make it original at all. It's the superhero goes and looks for trouble to test out his stuff. Yeah, he's in a pimp costume, but they don't use that concept. He's not like beating them with the pimp cane or like he didn't bring any hose with him. He didn't like have have like hoes like say, oh wow, you know, I want to be you, I want you to be my pimp. He's like, no, it's just a costume. Like they really didn't take it far enough.
See, I think that's something that the entire series, from the books and the movies, have to deal with, is because Kick-Ass is a pretty meta kind of book and story because it's talking about the comic book things, you know, like the comic book cliches and types, and so it's like, you know, probably Mark Miller wanted to do something.
Well, where are those jokes? Where are those jokes? Where are those jokes where?
Well, this goes back to, you know,
like, oh, you're sending me on the mission where I go to the bar and.
Well, think of it like this. I mean, if you look at Kick-Ass in the movie,
and it goes wrong. You've got to surprise your audience. Great screenwriting is no scene should end the way we think it's going to end, and these scenes are like, because they're superhero cliches, and this is the superhero cliche movie, doesn't mean you're allowed to just do the cliche. Because
this goes back to what you're saying about the original movie being about little, you know, young kids. And it's like, if you look at the actor playing Kick-Ass, he's a young guy, but he doesn't look like a little kid. So it's one thing to see somebody who's clearly worked out. You know, this goes more, I think, to the visual tone than it does to the written word. Because it's like, if you see Aaron John, he's ripped. I mean, we saw him in the movie.
Yeah,
the guy, right, and so it's like, but if you see a scrawny 14-year-old kid dressed as a pimp, that's a different visual thing altogether. And that's something that the book does. Like I said, the book can do this a lot better than the film can, because the book doesn't have to deal with aging actors.
And I'm going to continue to complain about the fight sequences throughout this whole movie. They are choppy. They are not that violent at all. You know, I compare most fight sequences in every action film to stuff from like The Matrix and the Hong Kong kung fu films, and you know, stuff like Hero, stuff like Crouching Tiger. That's fight sequences need to rise to the level these days. Okay, even the Jason Bourne movies had some great fight choreography. This movie is called Kick-Ass. There are, you know, there are several action set pieces throughout, fight set pieces, and they need to be both violent, exciting, and funny, and they fails almost all fronts.
See, I would just say violent and funny, because if they pulled like a Crouching Tiger or even a Jason Bourne kind of fight, I mean, that goes against the premise of what it is.
I don't want a big stylized fight scene. I mean, I want action.
I want to get
fun.
his ass kicked.
I want somebody. I want Hit Girl to hit some guy in the balls, and us, the whole audience, to go, oh, you know.
Oh, I have no problem with that. What I would have a problem with is, like, suddenly they're doing Hong Kong kung fu moves. What I want to see is a dirty fight where it's bloody and nasty, and something that you'd see in the schoolyard or hopefully on the subway during a really hot day in August.
Yeah. What I want to see, really, and I get what you're saying, David, and I don't disagree, but what I want to see, and what I think does happen, is I want to see Kick-Ass start to kick ass, and I want to feel like, you know what, this guy's got a handle on it, and then I want to see it like all go to ruin, which we see in this first fight scene. He starts kind of kicking their ass, and then he starts getting their ass kicked, and eventually Hit Girl has to jump in and save him. I think dramatically that's what has to happen in the fight scene. I understand what you're saying stylistically.
Story-wise, that makes sense. Yeah, story-wise, it makes sense. That's great. Then we have a motorcycle set piece. Mindy gets on her motorcycle. She's sneaking out.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
She's sneaking out like on her guardian, like who she's promised that she's not Hit Girl, but she gets and it's like a very like, you know,
it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Standard motorcycle sequence set piece. What about it is Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
So at the end of, I think it was at the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing when he's got to race his parents home.
He has to beat his parents home, and she has to beat Marcus home, and then of course Ferris jumps in bed and covers himself up to his chin, and of course underneath he's got the sweater.
He stops by the sun tanning girls. Hi.
Right. Yeah.
Ferris Bueller. Ferris Bueller. Nice to meet you.
And I mean, Mindy doesn't have that because she hasn't, you know. But it's the same idea, only Mindy gets caught.
Right.
Okay, and so this is where I guess would this be our catalyst, where Mindy, being discovered as Hit Girl, promises her guardian that she won't do it anymore, and she quits training Kick-Ass, right?
Yeah, this is where I think it gets a bit shaggy dog in terms of structure, because it's like you were saying with the 2A stories. I would say this is her catalyst. But
I would say this is her break to 2. Like, because this is the decision that she makes to give up.
Getting caught is the catalyst.
Yeah, then the debate is you're grounded, you can never be Hit Girl again, and then her going, fine. I mean, it's all in one instead of dialogue.
It's a little, right. It is a little like she's the protagonist, and she's choosing not to train him. But now, because it's like, you could argue that that Kick-Ass as the protagonist, the catalyst is Hit Girl deciding not to train him, so his break to 2 is to go train on his own and find new people.
Yeah, so like this is, we talk about this being a little fuzzy, and this is where where we need to and we should address this sometime. But there's been a lot of articles written lately about things like the beat sheet and things like this, and people relying too heavily on a formula structure. And this is where it's important to see where what I think is a successful movie not really follow a formula, but like if we use this formula, if we look at this,
this is where the movie goes off the rails because it won't follow basic story structure.
I totally
it goes off
disagree.
the rails. These movies split apart. For the second act, Kick-Ass and Hit Girl are completely separate.
But that's fine, man. I'm not enjoying
episodes of a TV show.
But I'm not enjoying the movie based on these 15 beats. I'm enjoying the movie on its own merit, and I think it succeeds there.
It's not about the beats. It's 2 different stories going on at the same time that were together in the beginning, and they don't weave together in the middle, and they barely weave together the third act. The fact that she comes back in the third act is totally unearned. It doesn't feel right at all. And we don't like her. Her whole A story is basically Mean Girls, right? This whole story, her whole story is like a poor man's Mean Girls, and it's totally weak. I don't like Hit Girl, giving in, trying to be one of the popular girls. It's like what was the Alicia Silverstone movie that everybody loves?
Clueless.
It's like Clueless. It's ridiculous. It's like Clueless. And then you know what? There's like one great moment is the 6 stick when she decides to leave that storyline and return to our storyline. It was a waste of storyline.
You see, I disagree. And I don't think it's 2 stories. I think it's actually 3 stories. It's his story, her story, and their story. Right, and I think you can look at it. You can even find the beats in each of those stories. And if you look at
you think they're connected? I think they're completely disconnected.
I don't think they're always connected, but I do think there is a reflection or there are complementary arcs to them.
They're totally connected by
the A story.
They're thematically connected, no doubt, because
they
if the movie is about
they're finding themselves.
If the movie's about what it means to be a superhero, or if it's about Hit Girl is not the mask, Hit Girl is who she is.
It's about identity.
And if Kick-Ass is not the mask,
Hit Girl
it's who she
is finding out that she needs to be Hit Girl, and Kick-Ass is finding out he needs to be Kick-Ass.
So in order for her to find out that she needs to be Hit Girl, that she can't be a civilian, she's got to stop being Hit Girl. Okay. And for Kick-Ass to find out that he truly is Kick-Ass, he has to go through the crucible, like you were saying. It's like you're not. And like the movie is saying, you're not really a hero until you've been through the crucible. And
now, I would agree. I would say that would work, except that Hit Girl's, as we're continuing through the beat sheet, Hit Girl's story is so dull. It is not filled with obstacles of her trying to leave behind the superhero and become, the regular girl at school. The one moment we have of that is the end of it with the 6 stick. Like
there's her at the
all kinds of
sleepover.
Huh?
There's her at the sleepover.
Right, there's
her
the dance off where she tries to use
off.
Hit Girl and successfully to kind of win acclaim, but it
that
backfires on her.
That was all right.
Yeah.
They
And
could've
then, of
taken
course,
it
there's
further.
the quote party, the kegger that she's brought to, and where she learns that, that they don't actually like her. It's one of those things where it's
why does she not
like,
beat the hell out of everyone there?
Because it doesn't matter. Like she's smart enough to know that beating the hell out of them isn't going to like make her popular or anything.
she needs to defeat them in front of, if they're in front of just each other, the popular kids. This would be my argument anyway. It doesn't matter. But if she defeats them in front of the school, then it matters. Because if you look at every scene leading up to that, she tries to use her hit girl powers, as it were, to fit in, and it doesn't work.
All right.
And so when she finally does suit up, as it were, which I think she says it in voiceover or whatever, that dressing up like these girls is just like putting on a mask, and she knows how to do that. And then she uses the sick stick on them in the cafeteria. That's when hitting them matters, because now.
All right, olive oiler and goulash. I see what you're saying, but we are gonna all agree that there's like two competing A stories here, and
I think they're complementary.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, thematically they are. I mean, whether they are
our beats
or not is.
Let me move on with our beats.
But if we go to Kick-Ass, then you have a different, I think.
Right. We left off with Red Mist becoming the motherfucker.
I would even say that you could add a fourth story here, and I mean, of course, we've always got multiple stories going on, but I would say that the key beats are even there for the motherfucker story.
Right,
Yeah.
he's deciding who he is too.
He's got to break to 2. He's got to break to 3. He's got a midpoint.
He's becoming a villain. Yeah.
And he has more bona fides than Kick-Ass at this point in terms of becoming a super whatever.
Yeah.
Because his dad got killed.
Right. He has the reasons to be an evil villain. Kick-Ass, now that he's not working with Hit Girl, goes out, he hits the streets, and he joins up with Dr. Gravity, who was in Clueless.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
TV show. And they have a fight set piece there together.
Which is reminiscent of one of Kick-Ass's, like his first successful fight from the first movie.
Right.
Right.
It's like a reflection of that.
Right. Then we get now. I guess we're okay. So we're in our fun and games at this point.
Yeah,
so,
at this point we're in Act 2. Yeah. So
right. Fun and games.
This actually was something that
this
I wondered
movie.
about in terms of debate and inciting incident and so on for Kick-Ass, because it's like, how does Justice Forever play into that? Because it doesn't seem like anything really gets started in terms of him being a superhero until he joins Justice.
He's learning on his own. He goes out to learn on his own.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like
meeting Dr. Gravity. He's learning on his own.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like meeting Dr. Gravity is kind of also an inciting incident, because Dr. Gravity leads him to Justice Forever, which leads him on another.
I mean, I would put that
There's
in
only
part of the
one
debate.
inciting incident in A's story. The rest are obstacles. The rest are plot points. There can be more plot points, but the inciting incident is that he has lost Hit Girl as his mentor, because the first act is she's his mentor. Inciting incident, she loses him, breaking into is choosing to go find another group. And
I would say it's his decision to join that other group.
Right,
Finding it as part of the debate.
Yeah, you see, that's what I mean. It's like,
okay.
Because it's like that turns his world kind of, I wouldn't say upside down, but it definitely changes things. He meets Dr. Gravity, so as a partner.
Well,
through Dr. Gravity, he meets the other guys.
And it's radically different, right? Like, he's not going out like beating up superheroes. They go, at least not at first. They're going out and like feeding the homeless.
And they're helping drunk people get home, and that's why I think it's like it's a bit of a shaggy dog in terms of structure at the beginning.
It is because you've got multiple stories going on here, maybe multiple what you could call A stories.
Then you get the motherfucker. He robs the bodega very poorly, right?
Yeah.
Because he's trying to be a villain.
I love the shot of him like holding the gun wrong, and the old man tells him you're gonna hit yourself in the head with that gun, and he does.
And then
Bam.
See, I really like the motherfucker.
This is all
I kind of wanted to follow him a lot more
LOLs,
too.
but not really laughing out loud kind of comedy. None of this made me laugh. It was all like, oh, that's funny kind of level. It just failed for me on the comedy level.
Yeah.
Eventually,
What about him finding his mother's anal beads? That was
that was somewhat edgy, but you gotta take that joke to its final completion. He's got to use that at some point.
Well, they're about the size of fucking softballs, man.
I know, man, but you know what?
You should have got in the first
start
half.
using those as a
Gotta go
weapon.
before the third.
You need to start using those as his, like, you know, the motherfucker's weapon, you know?
Oh my
Like,
god.
He's taking out the anal beads.
He should have used them as a weapon and fucking sworn up and down that they were a rosary or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mind if he used them as a weapon and swore up and down that they were anal beads.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna go for it and you're gonna wear an S&M outfit.
Yeah, with a name like the
own up to it.
motherfucker. With a name like the motherfucker, I really could have gone for more Oedipal themes with him, you know.
You wanted
I don't remember the
Oedipal
mom at all being in the book.
Got it. Kick-Ass meets Stars and Stripes, and he meets this new gang of superheroes.
Yep.
This is where it continues to kind of reinforce what's it mean to be a hero because of Battle Guy, who's his friend, telling the Batman origin story.
Yeah, I mean,
and because when Kick-Ass calls him out on it, what's his face? Colonel Stars and Stripes says, "Do you want to, change your resume?" And it's suggested in the way he says it, to me anyway, is like you're not a real hero anymore.
Right, you're not a real hero
you
until you've got a wound, you've got something that happened to you, and then we meet the other guys. We meet Night Bitch.
Night Bitch.
What was her background? She's awesome, by the way.
Her sister was murdered, found in a dumpster.
Right.
Insect Man was an out gay man, and that's why he didn't wear a mask because he didn't want to.
He was persecuted.
It was it was like being in the closet again.
What about the middle-aged couple, like remembering Timothy or something like that?
They lost their child. That's the most fucked up backstory.
And their costume is his fucking
Tommy's
pictures.
mom and dad.
And they're just kind of there. They're just there to kind of like as a support group. The tone of that didn't work in this movie. I could see how that could be really dark comedy. It didn't work the way it played here. These guys needed to be like angry mother and father taking out their aggression on because they lost their kid. That could really work. It did not work in the movie. I just kept thinking these poor like parents. Out for a night on the town trying to be social. It was pathetic. It wasn't dark.
You see, okay, that's where I think that they play it up more in the book is that they're pathetic, and it's not just the couple that's pathetic. It's like everybody doing this, except for Hit Girl, is pathetic, and of course Mother Russia, because come on. And I think that's kind of the point is like that's another thing that's played up in the book is because you see these small skinny kids and they're pathetic. And
but this is our A story. This is Kick-Ass joins this team. We don't want them to suck. That's unheroic. It reflects poorly on our main character. We don't want them to be stupid, and we don't want Stars and Stripes to be an idiot. And turns out when Stars and Stripes first. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but when Stars and Stripes first like breaks down the door at the brothel with the Asian gangsters with the holding the sex workers hostage, that was awesome. You see that he's like a bad motherfucker. He's crazy to go up against like far greater like odds.
I love his concept.
That was my favorite set piece of the movie, the action set piece. It was the only one that worked for me because it was pretty violent and they were definitely outnumbered. And it's like they were not really sure they were going to do it until Stars and Stripes opened the door, and then they're like, "All right, let's do this." And then you get Night Bitch and Kick-Ass working together. You get the other superheroes joining in. and you feel like there's synergy for the first time, and now you feel like Kick-Ass did join the right team.
I tell you what I didn't like about this, and this kind of, I think this kind of speaks to what you're saying, David, is I don't like that, like, you know, like Kick-Ass joined this team, and they were a team of people who were inspired by him, but he gets kind of relegated to being second class, and you know, like, I don't like that there's no friction around the fact that they're going out and feeding the homeless, and so I don't mind them doing that, but like, you know, there's no friction by the fact that he's actually been in the shit, you know, like he's actually been out there doing it, getting his ass kicked, kicking ass, and nobody else
responsible for somebody's death.
Right.
And
nobody, you know, until the midpoint, until this scene, this whorehouse scene that you're talking about, like the, you know, there isn't really that violent, you know, action on the part. I would like to have seen more friction between Stars and Stripes and Kick-Ass, or some, you know, just at least a little bit of trouble with Kick-Ass over, you know, like, you know, a superhero is a man of action, right? And while they're doing good for the community, they're you know, a glorified you know, Salvation Army.
Is that our midpoint when he joins Stars and Stripes? What's the name of the gang?
Justice Forever. I think his joining is the break to 2, and I think the midpoint.
Come on, stop it! It's halfway through the movie. It can't be a break to 2.
No, I thought it was when they went after the gang at the brothel.
Is this break to 2?
It was like a big set piece, and because before.
Midpoint.
Yeah, I think that's the midpoint. I agree.
Because before they're feeding the homeless, and they're walking drunks home, and they're making sure young women aren't molested at parties and things like that. And now they're actually getting into a fight.
I mean, I think
there's physical danger.
Midpoint is where the old world. This is where the stakes get raised, and
right, and that's also. I looked at my phone, and that was the middle of the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
You looked at your phone in the theater, dude. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I had it done low on dim. Don't worry.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, I was taking notes on my iPhone too.
No, but literally, it's like if you're talking about that changes things, that did change what Justice Forever did. I mean,
right.
They were feeding the homeless, as we keep saying, and now they're beating people up and getting people out of there.
As the consequence of that, now the bad guys are going to start to close in because now people are going to start coming after them as a consequence of this raid. It fits that fits the midpoint perfectly. You know, again, we talk about, especially the first part of this being, you know, kind of muddy because of the multiple stories. I think in particular, Dave Kick-Ass's storyline, his break to 2 is the decision to join, which is a little later than you would typically see.
That's not a break to 2. It's a midpoint. It's where his decision was to go out on his own.
Wait. So what? What is the midpoint for you? Is the midpoint for you is him joining?
Yeah.
That raises the stakes in absolutely no way.
Yes, it does. Now there's a team. Now he's got what he wanted, which is a mentor and a team to go do what they want. Then they start pulling heights, they start rescuing people, they start doing stuff. Now
I'm with the Goulash Ghoul on this one. It's the raid on the brothel.
Or the raid on the brothel. I mean, whatever. The raid on the brothel, fine. That if you want that to be the midpoint too. But the raid on the brothel is just an example of stakes being raised because now they're actually doing stuff.
Well, I mean, I agree that it's stakes being raised. Feeding the homeless, this is terrible, isn't like the biggest stake to raise. I mean, so nobody's stopping him for anything.
Right, it's the flip side of what he's doing in Act 1.
At the same time, the motherfucker hires all of his henchmen.
Yeah, and Mindy...
Black Death, the Tumor, Mother Russia...
But that's the gearing up that happens in the first part of the second act. That's the bad guy getting his crew together, but they're not doing anything. They're not closing in. They're not really doing anything.
For this movie, it's the bad guys close in. For this movie, that is the bad guys closing in, finally getting.
I see. It's like for me, a bad guy closing in would mean that the motherfucker is going after them.
Well,
which happens right after that.
That's what we get.
This was
right after
active. That. This is right. It's right after the midpoint, where the midpoint being they go after the brothel.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're active about that. Nobody's coming after them. They're going to the trouble. And
That's
so, and
fine.
the reason that I
Either
say
joining or
that
the
it changes things up is because the reason I say that the brothel changes it up is the midpoint is because they're using their fists, they're doing things that are what we think of as superhero things. They're getting into a
Yeah,
fight.
they're basically.
I don't
They're
think
like,
of Superman going to feed the homeless.
everyone's like, oh shit, we're really doing this.
Yeah.
Like
Right, and so when I think of, like,
up
Superman-
until Stars and Stripes knocks down that door, people were like, are we really doing this? And then they're really doing it. So now they're in for real. Yeah, and they've possibly gotta, they're gonna suffer the vengeance of an Asian gangster. Who knows? Meanwhile, in Hit Girl's story, she's, trying to fit in at school. She makes a date. She's trying to dress pretty. It's like, Clueless / Mean Girls. This is before the midpoint.
Right.
And then I guess her midpoint is the date ditch.
I would say it's like the six stick.
No. That's her reaction. That's her reaction to the midpoint.
Well, you see, because yeah. When does the six stick happen in relation to the brothel raid?
It's after. It's after.
Yeah, it's definitely after because she comes to him after she gets ditched.
Yeah, and she cries for the first time, and he convinces her to fight fire with fire. What would Hit Girl do?
Yeah.
I mean, my argument again for like a midpoint for Hit Girl would be the six stick because it changes things. She actually, I mean, I like the ditch,
It's
the
a
date
plot
ditch,
point.
but
It's not a midpoint. It's this.
but that's
the
changes
midpoint has to
things
change
back.
the movie into a new movie.
It does. She changes
her
back into
story
Hit
was
Girl.
her story was fitting in. So I want to fit in with these people, but then the date ditch.
Well, I mean, I like
said,
the date
know what?
ditch as well. It's just,
You're never going to fit in with these people.
So
So to me, that's her midpoint, and then she cries, which would be sort of a low point, a Dark Night of the Soul for her story. She finds Kick-Ass, and he convinces her to fight fire with fire. It's almost a break into three. The sixth is almost a break into three for her A story.
well, the break into three would be getting into the outfit, the costume of a mean girl, because before that she doesn't really
Oh, that's
dress.
right. She dresses up real hot. Yeah.
Right, because it has like the Rambo getting ready for the fight.
Right,
kind of
is the
thing
break
to
into
it.
three, and then she, the
And then she goes
finale
the six
is
stick.
use the six stick, which is one of the best moments in the movie. It's the edgiest moment. It's the thing you don't see coming. Finally, I'm like, did I just see that? Like you were saying.
I'm not so sure on the midpoint for because I'm not so sure it falls in there. Like if you look at, because I'm wondering, there's also that dance scene, right?
Where she pretends to be
That's her fun and games in her story.
Yeah, that's totally fun and games.
Her A story is to try to fit in.
So
right?
so I've kind of battled this in my head. I've thought about that. I've also when I think about midpoints, one of the things that I always think about is that false victory or defeat thing, right?
Yeah. The squad is the false victory, right?
Making
the squad is the false victory.
Or is the date ditch a false defeat?
Then the date ditch is the midpoint, right? The false victory is she gets on the team, but she pisses off the girl enough to make her organize the date ditch. And then the
date ditch would be like bad guys close in and Dark Night of the Soul and all is lost because then she goes to Kick-Ass.
Dark Night of the Soul is when she cries to Kick-Ass.
Right, so the midpoint would be the dance routine because it's a false victory. She thinks she's in, and the head of the Mean Girls
the midpoint's preceded by a false victory. The midpoint itself is the turnaround from one world to another. But I mean, that's semantics. We're arguing about semantics.
Yeah, I'd say that it is the false victory or the false defeat, and that after that we're in the new movie because then the bad guys close in, then we have the Dark Night of the Soul, then we have etc. And so it's like wow, your mustache went way off.
Right.
Because then she thinks she's won. She thinks she's part of them, and we know because of the blonde.
Either way, I think what we have all discovered here is that Kick-Ass and Hit Girl have two different stories in this movie.
Yes.
And that Hit Girl's story is nested inside of Kick-Ass's story. Because what happens is once hers is over, after the Six Stick is over, she puts the Hit Girl uniform back on. She decides she's Hit Girl, right?
Yeah, and then...
before she can do that, Javier is killed by motherfucker's gangster family, right?
Yeah.
The gang, and then what I think is the low point for Kick-Ass's story is they actually kill Stars and Stripes at the headquarters, and they blow up and they destroy the headquarters, right?
No, how is that lower than them killing his father?
Yeah, his dad is the low point.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That is so ridiculous. That is so. Where did the father come from? He's barely in this movie, okay? You know,
which is a problem. But
Stars and Stripes is a surrogate father. He is the father of this movie. He is the big daddy of this movie. And all of a sudden, you do it twice. You kill Stars and Stripes, and then they
Stars and Stripes
and kill his actual dad. It's like you're doing it twice. It's like a double.
So okay, that goes back to
double all
superhero
is
rules.
lost. It's retarded.
It's superhero rules, because Stars and Stripes isn't a blood relative, and from my understanding from what this movie is positing, the way to become a superhero is a blood relative has to die.
You are absolutely right. That's why they shoehorn that shit in there. Okay. The father being killed by the evil villain now makes Kick-Ass finally the hero that he needs to be. But then why does Stars and Stripes die?
Well, no, hang on. It doesn't
useless.
make him the hero. It doesn't make him the hero he needs to be. It gives him the resume.
Right. It gives him the resume
because Hit Girl tells him at the end. But for me, the bad guys close in is when the toxic cunts go after Justice Forever.
Right,
so they kill Stars and Stripes, they beat up Night Bitch, they attack her neighborhood.
That's great. That's great. Bad guys close in. Why does Stars and Stripes have to die? Why does Stars and Stripes die?
I don't think he has to. I don't think he has to. I don't know that it was the right move for him to die. I think just getting the shit kicked out of him would have been fine, just like with Night Bitch. But I definitely don't think that constitutes the law.
Well, you see, I agree with the Bog Jumper that it is a surrogate father being killed. I mean, I think that's why they did it.
Yeah, that all is lost is the father being killed. But you know,
and you could also maybe arguably say that
barely in this movie. There was a lot more resonance when Stars and Stripes was killed for me.
Let me ask you this, Olive Oiler. Since you've read the graphic novels, I know So there's some controversy over the graphic novels. There's a rape scene that was, of course, cut out of the movie.
Right, because they essentially cut the character.
Yeah. So, but I think they were also probably toning it down. But is the death of the father a surrogate plot point for that rape scene? Because I know the rape scene is designed to piss Kick-Ass off. Is it the same? Is it the same beat?
I think it is the same beat, because I think it has a lot more resonance in the book than it does in the movie, because the dad is more in the book than he is in the movie.
Okay.
He's it's like, yeah, I mean, he's just a bigger character in that. So him taking the fall for Kick-Ass, him doing all of that stuff, to me it meant a lot more in the book. I mean, I agree that he wasn't in this enough, and you want that to have an emotional resonance. Bruce Wayne's parents dying, him being left an orphan, has more emotional resonance because he's alone.
Does it? I don't know that it does. Like every time I see the Batman myth displayed on screen,
all I'm saying is, like, maybe not to you personally, but relative to this, yeah, because he's all alone in the world. And the thing with, like, Superman, he doesn't have any parents, but not only that, he doesn't have a homeland.
It works if the parent was relevant to the story. In Spider-Man, Uncle Ben is relevant. He hangs out with him. They spend time together. He's the one who taught him to be a scientist. Yeah, he gets the theme stated. In this movie, Kick-Ass's father is completely gone. The surrogate father, Stars and Stripes, has a lot more relevance. So
yeah, I mean, I get the point. I just, I actually feel Uncle Ben more than I feel Batman's parents, because Batman's
I mean, I
parents
definitely do
are
too,
one
but-
scene.
but-
You know, I feel
I
Harry
think-
Potter's parents more.
Yeah.
You know.
We can all agree. I think we are all agreeing the low point is the death of Kick-Ass's actual dad, but it's shoehorned in. It has far less resonance, Stars and Stripes' death, and the beating up of Night Bitch is probably a surrogate for the graphic novel rape scene, which we know the rape scenes in screenwriting are like the third rail. Like, if your movie is not entirely about rape and surviving rape, you need to leave it out. It's one of those subjects that is, has a lot of emotional context. You don't mess with it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think part of the reason that the comic book exists, that the graphic novel exists, is to push all these buttons.
Yeah.
What?
It's
In fact, Mark Miller's been being called out on this fairly recently in comic book circles, because this isn't the only time that he's done this, and it seems to be like his go-to for an emotional punch. He had a book called Nemesis out where it's used as a major plot point, and he does it in, I want to say, this series he did called The Authority, where it's a major plot point. It seems to be his go-to thing, and so I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Gender of the character doesn't matter. He just goes to it, and so he's been called out on it recently.
Well, it's a shortcut to drama, and it's hack writing, in my opinion.
So
it's like
might have a lot of good
killing
things to
children.
say about.
It's like putting children in danger and killing them. It's like a shortcut to drama that is,
Right, unless you're doing Rabbit Hole, which is about the loss of a child.
Exactly. It needs to be about that,
Yeah.
right? Or invoking 9/11 in your story. Unless it's about the movie's about that, it's a shortcut. It offends people. It's gonna offend some people. It's it's lazy writing, in my opinion.
I mean, that's
can we get back to the beats?
Yeah, certainly. I was just going to say, like, with Night Bitch, they have the allusion towards it. They make a nod towards it. And I kind of felt they could have left that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't funny.
Bring that beat in. Bring that beat back.
So we're at All Is Lost?
So we're in, I guess we agree the All Is Lost is death of the father. Before that, they beat up Night Bitch. Mother Russia is kicking ass. We find out that she's sort of the big bad.
Well, would you say that
she's the muscle?
Yeah.
That the dad being murdered is Dark Knight of the Soul?
No, it's All Is Lost. Dark Knight is when you review it. Dark Knight of the Soul is when you talk.
So the Dark
it.
Knight is the funeral.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
definitely.
See, now we're all back on the rails.
Right, and the funeral fight set piece is kind of awesome because that's irreverent. We're at a funeral. We think it's regular Dark Knight of the Soul, but all of a sudden they just what's the evil team called?
The toxic mega cunts.
Oh yeah, the toxic mega cunts.
Yes.
The toxic mega cunts. Fantastic. I wish NYC Screenwriters Collective had as cool a name.
I think we do.
So the funeral fight set piece is interesting. It finally is some big action. We start to see more of the evil superheroes versus the good guys, but then the motherfucker he's about to kidnap Kick-Ass, and boom, Hit Girl saves him.
Right.
She's back, and this is where the nested story of Hit Girl story comes back into
it all merges.
It reemerges, and Hit Girl Chloe Moretz gets to say cocksucker again, which is
why we paid $14.
Right, which is the high concept is a little girl swearing and being obscene. And it does not have as much resonance in this movie as it did in the first.
And she does get to kill a dude with his own finger, like she said she could.
Oh yeah, that was
a great
third act.
payoff. Yeah. Great payoff. Great payoff because she says I can kill a guy with his own finger, and then
when she's going on her date, right?
Yep.
Like, don't worry about me.
I can kill a man with his.
That was pretty great. I still don't know what Hit Girl and Kick-Ass want. Like, I don't know what they want out of this movie. like what's their aid, but at this point we're just like, all right, they just want to be superheroes, right? Is that it? This is them finding. You guys have convinced me that this is like a double origin story where they both need to find themselves again.
Well, so I think the overarching theme here, and I've been saying, is about identity, right? I think it's Kick-Ass's origin story. I think she's had her origin story.
Yeah.
But she needs the opportunity to, like, without her father to define it for her, she needs the opportunity to find that identity for herself.
Right. Well, you guys
which is the purpose for that fish out of water story during the second act.
You guys said the theme stated was, you're not Chris, you're Kick-Ass, right?
You're not Dave. You're
Dave.
Kick-Ass is who you are. Dave is the mask.
And ironically,
Right.
the same thing is for her.
Right. Ironically, for her, it's the same. She's not Mindy.
Well, you could argue. Well, I would arguably say that she is something of an iconic character because she never, I guess, truly forgot who she was. She never truly forgot that she was Hit Girl.
Yeah.
And that,
And
No,
the
but she had to really learn it and internalize
Do you think Hit Girl using guns is a cop out? Because I thought she's just supposed to be. She's called Hit Girl. She's supposed to beat the fuck out of people with her.
No, she used guns in the first one.
No, she's always used them.
Yeah, she's always used them.
Yeah, because Big Daddy did too, right?
Yeah.
I just
That
felt it was
kind
a
of
little bit.
The departure from, because he was basically a Batman stand-in. The departure from Batman is Batman never uses guns.
Just to finish up, about the edginess and the obscenity, I felt that this movie needed to be like The Expendables in a high school superhero movie. Like, The Expendables and even the new like Rambo movie.
That was great.
Which was awesome. It just like said, I'm gonna show you how over the top I can be and not take myself seriously. The same with Expendables. It's like we're not gonna take myself seriously. I'm gonna show you how far I can take this premise and shock the shit out of you. And I did not get enough of that out of this movie.
No.
The new information after the All Is Lost in the Dark Night of the Soul, we get new information is that they know where the motherfucker's hideout is.
Yes.
Right.
And they're gonna take it to him because of they're bad guys and because they tried to stalk them at the funeral, right?
Yeah, and they killed his dad because that's.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
You keep forgetting about that.
You know why? Because he's barely in the movie. He's barely in the movie.
It's the line is, "You're gonna pay for what you did to my dad," and the motherfucker says, "Your dad, you blew up my dad with a bazooka."
You remember in Batman Begins how much time we spend with Bruce Wayne's dad, and how we see he's a great doctor and he's a philanthropist, and he talks about how he gave money to create Gotham and
Right.
he's such a good dad. We spend so much time with that dad that when he dies, we feel it. We understand Bruce Wayne's pain. Dude, I don't even remember the dad was in it. All right, so breaking into 3, Hit Girl tells Marcus she's got to go be Hit Girl, and the Justice.
Well, if Kick-Ass is, I thought it was just when they sent out the call via social networking.
Right, and they say what? We're gonna go do what?
We're gonna go defeat the toxic mega cunts.
Right, they're gonna play her with their posse.
Right.
Yeah.
And then our finale, we get like X ending, right? Superhero battle royale.
Yes.
With cheese.
With a potentially dead shark.
Right. I noticed, again, a lack of interesting fighting in this third act set piece. I noticed we don't even get to see Night Bitch fighting at all. We get
you do a little bit.
We get Kick-Ass, we get Hit Girl, we get
Battle Guy.
Mother Russia is awesome. Mother Russia finally, is someone who can match Hit Girl.
Yes.
So that's a great. Finally, they're able to give Hit Girl some good antagonism because she seems pretty untouchable up until this point. And the way Hit Girl finally kills Mother Russia is fantastic. The broken glass knife of death thing.
Yeah.
So that was
awesome.
the adrenaline injection was a callback to the first graphic novel.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, right. They set
but
that up
in
early
a-
in the movie. You might need this. Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, like, it's not in the second one. In the first book, when they're doing they're breaking into Act 3. They're going up in an elevator to fight the mobsters.
Mm-hmm.
And Hit Girl takes out a vial and inhales it. And Kick-Ass is like, is that Coke? And she's like, no, it's a specially made, thing to give me the strength of 10 men. That's what my dad told me. And so, I mean, you can't have even a 14 or 15-year-old doing that in a movie. I don't think.
That's amazing. See, that's edgy. That is so edgy. They should have kept that. I mean, for Kick-Ass too. So, all right. So first of all, they have a great little piece of meaty, story from the first novel they didn't get to use, and they turn it into adrenaline shot.
Yeah.
Come on. That would be great if they're sniffing powder and he's like, oh, no, it's Big Daddy's, extra superpower. That would be amazing. These kids are kicking ass high on Coke in the third act of this movie. That's edgy. That's all I have to say. Motherfucker gets eaten by sharks.
That was a big difference from the graphic novel.
Satisfying.
And this plays into a better, I think, image in terms of the promise of the premise of kids fighting, because in the graphic novel, he and Kick-Ass get into another fight, and he falls up, and the motherfucker falls off the roof, and he just hits the ground and basically breaks a load of bones, and then he starts begging for help like a little kid would, because that's what they are.
Interesting.
And so it goes from this big epic fight to a relatively big epic fight to something kind of pathetic and sad, and you realize, oh man, these are just kids.
Yeah.
Whereas,
but see, and you know what? Somebody says at one point, it's not a comic book. This is real life. When you're dead,
yeah, when he sold it, when Kick-Ass sold his hand.
Yeah, when you're dead, that's it.
Oh, but did either of you stay? I know Dave or Bob Jumper, you didn't stay in through the end.
I didn't either, and I know what happened.
Was there an Easter egg?
There's an Easter egg at the very end. It's on YouTube right now.
Okay, tell us what happens.
And so basically, it's in a hospital. We go into a hospital room, and the motherfucker is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
He's missing his arms and his legs, and apparently also his penis.
Oh, the shark ate everything.
And the gag is that he can't really move because of the traction and all the pulleys and levers and stuff, and he's trying to get a drink of water, and he just can't do it. So he is totally immobilized.
So is that from the comic book? Is he alive?
Oh yeah, he's totally alive at the end. All he does is fall off a building in the comic book. He falls a couple stories, and he totally lives. And he actually asks Kick-Ass to help him. He's like, "Help me, I'm hurt. I need the hospital. Can you call the ambulance?" I mean, like I said,
and Kick-Ass does it.
Essentially, I mean, part of the premise of the comics is that these are just kids.
See, I think that's rich. I think that's missed in the film.
And that it's not exactly it's not really supposed to be exciting. It's disturbing because they're kids. It's disturbing and funny because they're kind of pathetic kids, because they love comic books and they're playing on the cliche of the comic nerd. But yeah, it's a lot.
But isn't okay? Now back to the end, the finish, the sort of superscript is. Hit Girl says she's leaving New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she can't stay around because she can't be anything other than Hit Girl. And that would be dangerous to Marcus, her guardian, and
Well, and she just killed 6 guys with a cop's gun.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the cop's gun.
But they have their moment, her first kiss, right?
Yeah, that was sweet because they were talking about. Because the girls were all teasing her about she hadn't kissed anybody, and she was playing it off, but then it was true, and she saves it.
That was one thing that them dealing with the fact that the actress is older now. That I kind of liked that they did deal with that.
I thought it was very tasteful actually. I thought I didn't want to see a fucking romantic hookup between them.
Yeah.
But to recognize that there's something there, and to do it in such an innocent and benign way, I thought it was very tasteful. Yeah,
that was appropriate. And then what happened? What does Kick-Ass say? He says eventually real people being superheroes.
That's what the world needs, and it shows Dr. Gravity
He
out of
knows real
costume.
heroes, not superheroes, is what he said.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so Dr. Gravity, out of costume, goes and chases a mugger or a purse snatcher.
On his way to work at Scrubs.
yeah, at the hospital.
Yeah.
And then of
What
course
does
you
that
see
mean? Is Kick-Ass hanging up his suit, or what is he doing?
Well,
No, 'cause
that's-
the final image is him training himself, right? Like he's in Hit Girl's hideout. He's doing pull-ups with one arm. He's ripped now,
and he has the Iron Man helmet essentially.
Yeah. So that's so now we're going from the opening image, which is him being trained by her in his regular clothes and not really kind of cutting it, just kind of fucking around at it, and now it's real at the end.
He's training himself now because he has the death of his father. He has real bona fides to be a superhero.
Yep.
He's got superpowers. He's got a wound to propel him to do good. And now, all right.
And the helmet, I think, is important instead of the regular mask that he wore, because, and this was in the first film, it's in the comic as well. The outfit that he wears is a wetsuit.
Yeah.
And so now it's like he has something, he orders it on Amazon in the first movie, or he orders it online in the first movie, which suggests, without saying it outright, it's mass-produced. Whereas the helmet is clearly something he had to make or have made.
Okay, so this is what real superheroes do. He's got
all superheroes are master seamstresses.
Yeah, that's it. So, certainly Peter Parker is. I think it's Alfred for Batman, and it's Ma Kent for Superman.
Yeah.
So you always have to have somebody.
You gotta have somebody.
I remember Marvel Comics. I want to say it was back in the '90s, but years and years ago, they had just like a one-off, like a story in the back of one of the books about the guy who dealt with the tailoring for superheroes and villains, and like his little shop was the only neutral ground for everybody. So Captain America would be in getting his outfit, rebuilt, along with Doctor Doom, and they couldn't fight in there because they had the same tailor.
That's pretty cool.
So,
all right, so we've got our beats. Let's do a summation here, guys. My summation. You want me to go first? You guys, I'll go last.
You go ahead.
Fire away, Bob Jumper.
My summation is this movie was not edgy enough, obscene enough. The fight scenes were not cool enough, and the two A stories split up like that was distracting for me. It had some great moments. It had the stick. It had the Asian gangster set piece. It had the graveyard fight set piece. It had the Mother Russia versus Hit Girl, broken glass, knife, death. It had its moments, but to me, I was underwhelmed compared to the original. This needed to be edgier. It needed to be more obscene. And I think Chris put his finger on it, especially since the actors
hang on.
and the characters are older. Virgin olive oiler, the extra virgin Chris, put his finger on it with that it's because the actors are older, and it's not the high concept of kids being obscene and violent is lost on us. It's a higher bar to clear, and it didn't clear it for me. And the A story confusion also didn't help the story for me. But, I wasn't totally disappointed. I just didn't laugh out loud. I wasn't shocked that much. Though I wish I had a 6-stick I could use on some of my nemeses.
Nemesis? I can't disagree. I certainly enjoyed it more than you from the sound of it. And I have to agree with the Goulash Ghoul. It's probably the most fun I had at the theater, this summer. I thought they handled some of the things that they had no control of very well, like the age of the characters in terms of dealing with the kind of stories they should take on. But yeah, I had a good time. Goulash Ghoul.
Well, I'll provide counterpoint here. I guess to David anyway. I really I enjoyed the movie. I didn't go into the movie looking for it to be edgy. That's a secondary thing for me. I went in looking to have a lot of fun, and I did have a lot of fun. I think that it's although there's a lot going on, especially in the first half of the movie in terms of people to follow and story to follow. And you could say it gets a little muddy. I don't think it does. I don't feel like it does, and I actually think it provides an interesting counterpoint to a lot of the conversation and screenwriting circles that's going on right now regarding, formula, structure, and
whatever. Just breaking structure doesn't make you fucking innovative.
No, but that's not what I'm saying.
Breaking structure for no reason is not innovative.
But I don't think it's for no reason. I think it serves what I think is actually a very good story. So I
think this movie is a lot smarter than I think its surface gives it.
I agree.
Suggest.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on here. I think it's well done. I think it's it's not as one note as a lot of movies that modern typical structure builds, but it does still fit the bill of that structure. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, more interested in the themes and the meta commentary of the genre than it is, in a lot of things about, like the A story and so on. But, this is what we got. And I think part of the reason that the structure, at least at the beginning, maybe suffered was because it was fitting in so many storylines from the book, which is a little more free to explore things.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us on the Script BSE podcast for Kick-Ass 2. You can email us, fan mail us, hate mail us, comments, questions, proclamations to scriptfeed@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook page, our Google Plus page by searching for NYC Screenwriters Collective. You can also follow us on Twitter @ScriptFeed. And if you live in New York City, you should sign up for our workshops at meetup.com under NYC Screenwriters Collective. I want to thank the Extra Virgin Olive Oiler and the Goulash School.
Thank you, Drunken Bog Jumper.
Yes.
And please, if you got reviews, if you like us, you don't like us, write some reviews on iTunes. We're going to talk. We will talk about you in future podcasts.
And subscribe to us on YouTube as well.
Yeah, if you want to watch the video version of this podcast where we make fools of ourselves, and you can see the insides of our apartments as well.
Or if you are watching it on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast. As a matter of fact, David, you got some news on that, right?
What news?
Stitcher.
Oh yes, we are now right. Yes, the script is now available on Stitcher. If you're a fan of Stitcher, which a lot of people I know are.
Beach Kid Edition and the regular, the
yes,
monthly
and the main podcast as well. So, fantastic. Thanks, Chris and Chris.
Thanks, guys. I had a great time. Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, can't wait. Act like a bitch, get slapped like a bitch.